Let's talk a little NBA then. Pistons had something of a weird week. Let me actually pull up their schedule here. I like the ESPN schedule just because it's aesthetically the most pleasing. So last Tuesday they played San Antonio. They won that game. Not a big surprise. Then on Friday night they play not the best defensive game. They gave up 122 points, but without Cade Cunningham, they score 133 points and beat the Cavaliers. And I was like, whoa, okay, didn't expect that. Tim Hardaway had 32 points. Like, okay, didn't think you had that in you. But then they go on the road, they lose to Minnesota. Okay. Not great. Minnesota's probably game to game basis. They're probably not as good as you, but they've been without Cade Cunningham since I think that Dallas game was the last time Cade played, which ironically they lost that game. Yeah, he had 35 points that game, and they still lost somehow. But the story of the week for the Pistons was not, in fact, the winning against Cavaliers, which I thought was going to be the story. I thought that I was going to be able to say, hey, look, the Pistons without Cade, they've shown an ability to beat some of these good teams. But then something happened in the Minnesota game. The Pistons got into a little bit of a brawl. Now, when I say they got into a brawl, I mean they did not intend to get into a brawl, but a brawl occurred to them. So you can go back and watch the video. I don't know if anybody can really dispute that this is what happened. This is just how it looks on the video to me. Ron Holland goes to drive a layup, I believe, or he's playing. I can't remember I think Ron Holland was driving to get a layup, and he gets fouled going up. Naz Reid then wags his finger in his face like this, and then starts pointing at him, and Ron is kind of like ignoring him. That's what it looks like. He's like, okay, like, why are you acting like a psycho, Naz Reid? And then Dante DiVincenzo says, hold my beer, and just gets right in Holland's face. And he's like, get the F off of me. And then DiVincenzo does a wrestling move and just throws him to the ground, grabbing his neck. The whole brawl starts emerging. Isaiah Stewart's involved. Marcus Sasser's involved. The coaches are involved. They both get ejected. There's a total of 7 ejections. I believe it was Reid, DiVincenzo, Holland, Sasser, Stewart, and then the 2 coaches. So 7 total ejections. And my whole question about this thing is because I don't think that the Pistons are intending on this happening, but are they kind of just being the bad boys again? Like, this is one of those things where the Pistons are not instigating this. This has been something of my contention. The Pistons might retaliate. They might, show a little bit of feistiness and physicality. They're not a finesse team. I don't think anybody would call them that. They're not a, shoot a bunch of threes, style points, think back of like the Rockets in 2018, something like that. They're not that kind of a team. They are a drive to the basket, lob passes. They're more akin, if there's any team you can comp them to, I'd say they're closer to the Lob City Clippers than they are to, say some of these other modern teams that shoot a lot of 3 balls. Not that the Pistons don't shoot the 3, but especially without Cade Cunningham, they don't really have a lot of 3-point shooting potential there outside of Hardaway and Beasley. Either way, the Pistons play a physical brand of basketball. And I think that basically we're in an NBA world right now where that brand of basketball is just not played. So a lot of these guys, whether it's vets or even some of the young players, they don't like it when you got guys driving to the basket and forcing contact and trying to draw fouls and playing tough defense and getting in your face and getting fired up. And so these players who I would call sensitive, I don't think there's really any, I don't think there's really much else to say about that. Like, they get intimidated, they get upset, and then fights break out. And then the spin is, oh my gosh, the Pistons are always getting into fights. It's always the Pistons. It's the same sort of thing. I know it's not totally equivalent. It's like when you have a team that, I'm trying to think of like a college example, but it's like when you have a team where, people don't like them, for whatever reason. They're good. They play a style that is annoying, whatever the case may be. And other teams kind of push them around because they don't like that they're good. And then a fight breaks out naturally because the team is trying to defend itself. That's what the Pistons are. I don't think that they're really yes, does Isaiah Stewart get fired up probably easier than a lot of other teams or a lot of other players? Sure. I don't think that's untrue. I don't think that's unfair. But the fact that these fights are breaking out, I think, has more to do with the fact that the Pistons, number one, are just winning. So they're playing a brand of basketball that is successful, at least in so much as they're going to make the playoffs. And secondly, because teams don't like it when they have to play physical or when guys are driving to the basket or what have you. And all of that was what I was basically going to talk about. Until today, the news of the suspensions due to the fight were revealed. DiVincenzo and Naz Reid, I believe, were the only two players for the Wolves to get suspended. Both of them get 1 game. On the Pistons, Marcus Sasser and Ron Holland both get a game. Isaiah Stewart, however, gets 2 games. Now, is this, the most 2 games is really not a big deal. 1 game is really not a big deal. However, help me to understand this. Isaiah Stewart did not start the fight. Isaiah Stewart, from what I can tell, didn't do anything any more egregious than what DiVincenzo did. It wasn't like, Isaiah Stewart just punched Naz Reid in the face or something, or, sucker punched a coach or something. Isaiah Stewart gets his punishment because there is a mythos about Isaiah Stewart that basically all he does is fight people, which is just not true. I mean, you can just look at the stats and the season he's having right now. He's playing at an all defensive level right now. He's a really good rim protector, and he's really hard to dunk on too. Just go, if you don't believe me, go look up Isaiah Stewart defensive highlights. Now, again, that might be something of a misnomer because most people don't like defensive highlights. Either way, Isaiah Stewart is not just, meathead looking for someone to punch. The Sasser and the Holland thing, okay, fine. You're involved in a fight, you get suspended. And obviously Stewart was involved too, he gets suspended. I understand. What I don't understand, again, is Isaiah Stewart gets involved in a fight that he did not start, he gets 2 games. DiVincenzo starts a fight that he was not even, it was an interaction between Naz Reid and Ron Holland. DiVincenzo was not relevant. He just comes in, guns a-blazing, and just starts firing. He's like Danny DeVito. He just started blasting. And he gets 1 game? I saw the man, like a psycho, grab Ron Holland by the neck and throw him to the ground into a cameraman. That's not at least 2 games? That's not at least equal to whatever Isaiah Stewart is ostensibly being accused of doing? I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. And it doesn't surprise me because, again, it is just kind of the NBA for whatever reason. Through every time the Pistons have ever been good, there is just this semblance, this feeling that, well, the Pistons are doing it wrong. However they are good now, well, they're doing it wrong. They should stop doing it the way they're doing it, even though it's successful, even though fans like it, even though players want to play for them. They for whatever reason, they don't care. They're like, no, it's not good. We don't want toughness in our game. We don't want personality. We don't want, ratings in the NBA. We want, boring, lifeless, 3-point shooting. Boston shooting 65 million threes a game. That's what we want. Because that really, puts butts in the seats, I'm sure. But look, down the stretch here, it's not like things get particularly easy for the Pistons. They got a road game tomorrow against Oklahoma City. They got a road game on Friday against Toronto. Then they got a homestand for the last 4? No, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4, and then they end the season on the road. Again, they got Memphis, they got Sacramento, they got New York, they got Milwaukee twice. Okay, none of those home games outside. I guess Sacramento is probably pretty winnable. New York, Memphis, Milwaukee, all three of those teams are in the playoffs right now. And Oklahoma City tomorrow night on ESPN, by the way. So you'll get, if you are not in the area, you'll be able to tune into a national broadcast for the Pistons. And they got a couple of NBA TV games as well, in case you have NBA TV. Either way, the Pistons, I think, are being tested in a way. I think there is, it's kind of like a two-way deal where the NBA doesn't like it. Clearly, they don't like Isaiah Stewart. They have this view of him that all he is a fighter. And the Pistons getting more punished for being involved in a fight than for actually starting one. On the other hand, the media world, they kind of like it. They might not like that it's kind of boring, quote unquote, boring basketball, which I disagree with. But they do like that this is a gutsy team, that at any given moment, another team might not appreciate the physicality, might not appreciate the fieriness. And, hopefully Cade Cunningham will be back soon. You have the gutsiness, you have the grit, if you will, but you also have that superstar player in Cade Cunningham. So, we'll see, because no Cade, no Tobias right now. And obviously, Jaden Ivey is probably not coming back for the rest of the year at this point. The Pistons, I think, are not intentionally trying to become the bad boys. Now, to be fair, the bad boys didn't try to become the bad boys either. They got that label put onto them, and they just embraced it. So I got a feeling that sort of thing could be happening right now again. That the NBA, other players, other teams, they're just putting this label onto the team. And the Pistons are going to have to either embrace that and just say, you know what, we're going to be tough, we're going to be physical, we're not going to care what other teams think, we're not going to care what the NBA thinks, as long as we're not breaking the rules. We're going to win the way we are going to win. And I think Bickerstaff has that message. I think the players love that message. And as a fan, I'm all for it. If Bickerstaff is preaching that to his team, to be physical, to be tough, to get in the other team's face a little bit, that sounds good to me. That sounds like winning Pistons basketball to me. Hi, it's me again. If you enjoyed what you just saw, hit the like and subscribe button. We do live shows every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.